This is a two-part stream to a previous Q&A stream. Links to the Part 1 stream and Part 1 summary are in the description. Today's dev stream is brought to you by Ether Studios lead Dan Fernassi, community lead George Rogers, some guy named Alpharad, and Miguel Moran, marketing director of Off-Brand Games and trailer voice actor. Due to technical difficulties, the first 15 or so minutes of the stream are troubleshooting in separate stream VODs and won't be considered for timestamping. The first half of the stream is focused on real-time Olympia gameplay and matches between Dan and Alpharad, while George poses questions from the chat to the team. This video specifically focuses on commentary from the hosts and will not be diving into kit analysis, so make sure to check out the original stream for the full matches. Dan reiterates that Olympia is the fastest faller in the game. Dan covers air movement options specifically for recovery. He mentions a recovery tech beta testers found where you can buffer throwing the crystal during her double jump and home in to get a little extra boost without needing to use any extra resources, but it's difficult to perform since throwing the crystal has a lot of end lag. The devs have been going back and forth on if Olympia should get her once per airtime down special air dodge cancel back if she gets hit. Dan says Olympia's normals come out very quickly, insisting she's mashy, but in a good way. George reiterates that she has a new side special and that her old side special is now her ledge get up special. The team talks about how cool Olympia's shield crystal effects look. Chat asks if you can jump cancel ledge special in the crystal field like you could in Rivals 1. Dan says he wants it, especially because it would require you to have the field set up while on ledge, but the current reasoning is that it's not allowed because ledge special can already confirm into kill setups, and that the move needs to be punishable due to how rewarding it is. Alpharad says down special does a ton of shield damage, and Dan confirms. George asks Dan for cool tricks with Olympia's back air, which turns her around mid-air. Dan says he likes to approach with back air and then land into a jab combo. Chat asks how Olympia's wave dash is compared to other characters. Dan says it's at least better than Maple's, and chat decides that it's pretty okay. Dan compares Olympia's first hit of down strong speed to Force Burn or Arcane's down strong, but says due to it being a multi-hit, it can be DI'd out of. Dan and Alpharad showcase Olympia's green and default color palettes. Chat asks how the team landed on attack plus special as the input for Olympia's crystal field homing attack. Dan says ultimately they didn't want specials to do different things based on whether or not you are in the crystal field, because it can be difficult to tell exactly when you're in the field in a 3D game, and they wanted you to have access to your full kit regardless of whether or not you were in or out of the field. Dan mentions he wants to add a HUD for the input like Maple's Tether HUD, but is worried it could be distracting since it would flicker as you enter and exit the field. Olympia can grab another Olympia's crystal with her side special. Chat asks about the Rivals Direct on April 1st. George says it's a completely normal stream to share news about the Ether franchise. Chat asks if there's an upper limit on characters they want to add. Dan more or less says no. Chat asks about retro skin release plans. Dan and George say they are still making retro skins for the new released characters, and are figuring out how they want to distribute them. They will not be backer exclusive. Dan says the plan may be to release the retro skins as a pack once all 4 characters for the year are added to the game. George confirms there will be a substantial balance patch with the Olympia update. Miguel says patch 1.2 will be the biggest update to the game since launch. Olympia's common skin will be revealed today, but her higher rarity skins are being kept secret until release. Miguel says he's excited for the skins the team has been working on. Chat asks about upcoming stages and stage skins, much like how we had in Rivals of Ether 1. George says they're coming and more info will come later this year. Chat asks why the replay system changed from being input-based to being based on sharing game states. Dan and George explain that the change is due to the server-based rollback infrastructure through SnapNet. This change has specific benefits, such as not having to send every input to the server, and not being so limited in the types of visual effects they can create for the game. Dan says the plan to balance Zetterburn is to keep releasing characters that beat him so they don't have to nerf him. It's said a bit jokingly, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Chat asks when we'll see the first legendary skin. Dan says eventually, and George says they only have ideas so far. Legendary icons will be animated like the dev team icon. Icons featuring the workshop contest runner-ups should be going out later this spring. George would like to show progress on the Reina and add the icons to the game at the same time. George explains that they purchased the rights to the workshop characters that officially get added to the game. The team did not purchase the rights to the runner-up characters featured in the icons. Dan says if they wanted to officially add another workshop character to the game at some point, they would purchase the rights at that time. George says adding runners-up or workshop characters to the official roster sometime in the future is not entirely out of the question. Chat asks if volleyball or tetherball modes are being added remotely soon. Dan says he wants them, but that resources are stretched too thin to prioritize them, and that they also want to make sure casual queues are solidified in time for their arrival, so it doesn't dilute casual queues. He mentions he'd like to have a mode like Special Melee for lobbies. These are unlikely to happen in the first year. McDonald's is going to have to offer a lot more than $1 million to have Grimace added to the game, but Taco Bell could make a convincing case for the Chihuahua. Chat asks if the team will be adding more Dungeons characters and when we can expect to see them. George talks about their plan to add a combination of new and returning characters, and that it's a really good bet that some of those characters will be Dungeons characters. They can't say when, but to look forward to it. Italy asks if Workshop will support custom stages. Dan explains they'll be focused on support for custom characters first, then stage support will come sometime afterward. Chat asks why do character rewards stop at level 1000, and that it was too easy to hit level 1000. Huh. George says they do want to give players rewards for their dedication to reaching very high levels, but that they don't want to make cool things that only a small percent of the player base will ever be able to acquire. Chat recommends an icon that displays a specific character's level, and while the tech doesn't exist for it yet, the team agrees it would be a cool idea. Dan explains Claren was initially designed by Trevor. AlphaRad asks if Claren was Trevor's first character, and Dan tells him that Trevor's first character was technically Ori, but only for her normals. Dan says Spirit Flame was supposed to be like Fox Lasers, but the two of them agreed to add hit stun later. AlphaRad gives his opinion that Olympia is very vulnerable offstage when she's trying to recover, and is concerned she may not have the tools to get in on characters like Claren, who can then oppress her offstage with down tilt. Dan says they'll be keeping an eye on her matchups as players develop her to make sure it's not too polarizing, but does want to keep her weaknesses exploitable. Trevor, who is in chat, says that Olympia doesn't lose her down special dash cancel resource if she's hit out of it. Dan and AlphaRad leave the call as the second segment begins. George and Miguel review the entries for the Olympia animal skin guessing game. I'll quickly showcase each one and a summary of each developer's comments, then finish the segment with the official skin reveal. To start off, the both of them are very amused by Bug's naked mole rat Olympia. Miguel loves Odric's Craggling Olympia's poop brown fists. Miguel loves the proportions of King's mold Olympia's tiny arms and big fists. Miguel believes that red dude's Olympezia's color scheme kind of goes off. Miguel asks if preserving the silhouette is a concern when designing skins with different proportions like this, and George explains it's important to maintain the silhouette for hitbox consistency purposes. The two of them love the idea of Kino's woolly mouse Olympia, and George explains making Olympia fuzzier for a skin like that would be entirely possible, much like the Edilus update or Primal Loxodont. Miguel is impressed by Equi's Possum Olympia and loves her pink muzzle. He reiterates his love for pink and green on Olympia. Happy's Mold Olympia is very well done, and George loves the extra detail of the construction tape belt as a reference to Dungeons of Aether's Badger Co. crew. Miguel loves the detail of the gauntlets being dirt with grass and worms sticking out of them. Miguel says this skin would be a good example of what a skin just above common and just below rare would be. Some might say, an uncommon skin, where some details are changed but not quite as drastically so. Miguel compliments the art team for their work on the common skins and how vastly different they can make the characters look by redoing the textures. Real. Ellie's Cat Olympia blows Miguel away with its cool purple striped details. Rats by Raven64 might make all the rules or something. George laughs, forgets why he just had the template as a submission, then remembers this is Polar Bear Olympia by Splorange, and Polar Bear Olympia in a Snowstorm by Crumpled Brain Cells. Miguel loves J-Mission's Raccoon Olympia, and would like the gauntlets to be covered in dirt and trash. George really likes the raccoon mask design. Muttnut's largemouth bass hypnotizes Miguel into a state of awe. He admits the gauntlets do actually go a little hard, and George likes the tail. Miguel really likes Muttnut's Squirrel Olympia's green and brown gauntlets and tail. Miguel likes the nut band-aid, and George explains they can be a little more lenient with the silhouette when it comes to details like her tail. Miguel likes how Zany J4's Red Panda Olympia uses the clothes as part of her full body markings. George really likes the face markings. Job Olympia. Spirit Flame's Goat Olympia looks very familiar. The two of them joke that they'd never add a goat to Rivals of Aether. Toothbrush's human-wearing jeans Olympia elicits Miguel's fight-or-flight response. Miguel really digs her jeans. The both of them love Chili Nutria's Rabbit Olympia's pastel color scheme. Miguel would love to have Olympia's crystal be an Easter egg for the skin. The two of them compliment Suzuki FI's Chipmunk Olympia for the pattern design and the blue contrasting with the brown and orange on her body. Snacky Duck's Kangaroo Olympia has a bright red color for the gauntlets to resemble boxing gloves, which the both of them appreciate. Miguel really likes Ionis 64's striped Opossum Olympia's leaf wrap top and cool pattern design. +1 for Emery's mold. Tendy Monger offers this thing. George likes Alive's yellow rat. Miguel's Stockholm Syndrome is setting in on Raging Hadoken's Fish Olympia. Miguel calls Undertaker's edit of Emery's Pink Possum Olympia sick. He loves the dyed hair and nose ring. The two of them roar at Snake Lord's human Olympia. Miguel loves that the ears are colored to look like the hair and the I Heart New York top. I don't know why, but personally she's sort of giving Peg Pete to me. George thanks everyone for their submissions and reveals the official skin to be Possum Olympia. George enters training mode to show off the skin. Miguel loves the pink gauntlets and matching pink paws. George shows off the other 3 palettes for the skin. George enters training mode with Green Possum Olympia to showcase the skin one last time, and Miguel expresses his surprise that so many people guessed the little details correctly. Miguel and George end the stream by talking about the dates for upcoming events and releases, reminding everyone that the Rivals Direct happens on April 1st and that Olympia will be released on April 2nd. That wraps up this week's Dev Q&A. Which Olympia skin entry was your favorite? What Olympia animal skins are you hoping for in the future? Make sure to let me know in the comments. If you want to see all of the entries, you can check them all out in the Rivals of Aether Discord server. If you haven't seen part 1 of the Olympia Dev Q&A stream, I definitely recommend checking out my summary video to catch up, link in the description. As I mentioned in my last video, we have a busy week ahead of us, and I recommend checking out that video as well if you're an avid collector to pick up some missable cosmetics and prepare for Olympia's release. Don't forget, your creator code clears out every 2 weeks to ensure all creators have a fair shot at earning your support. So if you're thinking of picking up the Olympia skins or skin bundles releasing on April 2nd, you can use creator code BIRDGUY now to refresh your creator support for another 2 weeks, and ensure you don't miss out on the extra 5% bucks on your real money purchases. And you'll be helping support the channel as well. I want to thank everyone so much for your support in all of the ways that you do. Truly, it has made this jump into content creation a fun and welcoming experience. I'll be seeing y'all at the Battle of BC streams and doing my own Free-for-All Friday stream after. If we end up overlapping, we might just do a watch party until they're done for the day. Battle of BC 7 wraps up on Sunday, the Rivals Direct is on Tuesday, and I'll be putting up a quick patch overview video on Wednesday, as well as streaming a reading of the patch notes and Olympia gameplay. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, and I'll scrawl you later.